Hello, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I really want to just wish you a happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. It's the Connect, another Sunday evening, and I'm super, super glad to be here. All right, so there's no dancing music today. Quite a lot to discuss, but that's not even why I'm not having an intro music. I'm not having an intro music because my heart is heavy. With all that is going on in Nigeria where I live, it's amazing. And I'm speaking specifically, so that we're not mistaken, I'm speaking specifically to the incidents in Sokoto. And it's a real nerve-wracking, heartbreaking scenario. And, it calls for us asking questions as to what are we going to do about this? How do we go about this? You've seen the things that have played out. You've seen how events, how a young lady and many other people now are beginning to lose their lives as regards religious tolerance, as regards people do. When does doing a crime serve in the name of religion? Where does killing a person or committing a heinous crime justify a religious position? There's the law. Whether it's the Muslim law, and yes, I'm saying whether it's the Sharia law, whatever, there's the law. So do they not trust their laws well enough to go through the process? What happened was barbaric, was inhumane, and absolutely completely unacceptable. And it's the saddest thing ever. The saddest thing ever. And so my heart goes out to the families of everyone that is dealing with this. My heart goes out to Nigerians, because guess what? We are all dealing with this. Because I mean, anybody. I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine in the course of the week, and he was telling me about an experience he had in the same city, right, many years ago. How he was literally this is he was being dragged to the mosque where he was going to be stoned, and who knows, maybe burnt as well. And then he took the intervention of literally an angel. Some old man came in and was talking to the irate crowd, the mob, and then saying to them, but this is not the way to go. This is not how we should do this. So why are you, no, no, no. And that was how his life was spared. Or rather, as I like to put it, that's how his life was saved. How many more people have gone through this that don't even make the news? How many more people have to deal with things like this and don't even get to the front pages? How many have died for the sake of religion and all of that? It's crazy. It's crazy. And sometimes I almost feel like I should just dedicate this episode to this and just deal with these things and look at it. But then I'm also of the understanding that, look, these things will be dealt with. It's sad, it's painful, but God help us. God help us. It's a really, 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 really sad scenario. So I'm gonna give a shout out to everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Connect. And even though this is not the most exciting, the most exciting episode that I'm having. I'm sorry, we're having a bit of technical issues. All right, so it's not the most. Sorry, we just had a bit of technical issues there. Okay, so it's not the most exciting of episodes for me, right? Because there's just madness. It's just madness. It's just madness. All right, it's just madness. All right, so guys, we're going to be looking at quite an amazing episode that we have today. I'm being told by my team that that the inscription that is up is still open house 2. We don't know why that is, but if you give me a minute, we are live. So if you give me a minute, I'll fix that up right away. The inscription should not be open house 2. The inscription should be building the boy child, and I'm fixing that right now. Building the boy child. All right, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Building the boy child. Building the boy child. It's going to be amazing. And this is in recognition of the International Day of the boy child. You know, so many things happen and so much goes on when you hear a lot about, oh, the girl child. You hear so much about what's going on with the girl child and all of that. Sorry, we're fixing a lot of things now, so I'm going to just give me a second to sort this out. Yeah, because we don't want the description. It was supposed to have reflected appropriately, but it didn't. So I have to manually fix it right here whilst we're live. Okay, so that's all right. That's okay. That's okay. All right. Okay. It's okay. All right. Good. Amazing, 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 amazing. Just one more thing. I think it's been sorted out on Facebook. The inscription has been sorted out on YouTube, and now we're doing that on LinkedIn. So guys, just hold on, give me a second, and I'll be doing that right now. Ooh, what a day, so much. So what's your take on on what's going on? What's your take on all of this? The issues in Sokoto. I've got a couple of comments. Antito Blessing, it's great to have you. Antito is a super dear friend of mine. He says, I'm excited for this topic. I'm absolutely excited too. Antito, I'm actually excited too, even though I am, like I said earlier when I came on, I'm heavy laden, considering the issues in Sokoto and how that is playing out. So there's the incidents and then there's the reaction. I don't know which breaks my heart more. Is it the fact that this happened, or the fact that the way that it's been handled, or the way it's being mishandled, or the way it's not being handled at all? Three different things. And hopefully we'll have a conversation around that as well, because it's worrisome. All right, so we're going to be looking at building the boy child, which is recognition, as I said earlier, of the International Day of the Boy Child. And for me, this is a very topical, something very topical issue, something that we need to pay attention to. It's often said that quite a lot of things happen to, and quite a lot of stuff happen, for the female child, for the girl child, and we're looking at how we can positively impact the transition process for the male child, for the boy child. How it seems right now you have a lot of focus on training girls and preparing girls, and we ask ourselves, what are you preparing the girls for? Shouldn't attention be given? If you're seeking gender equality and gender balance, then obviously the right kind of attention should also be given to the boy child. So it's not just left to the whims and caprices of all kinds of funny influences, and so that when he now becomes something that gives you a source of concern, you're wondering how in the world you want to fix this. And so I think this is a conversation that is a need to have, is a must to have, and it's a conversation that we should not in any way, overlook or sweep under the carpet. So I'm going to be jumping straight into it. I have a couple of guests, and you know what? Again, something else that I noticed. It's no coincidence. It's not a stroke of fluke that the International Day of the Boy Child also falls within the month of mental health awareness. Yeah, because a lot of people have no idea what the boy child is going through. Be a man, grow up, all the things that they are told. No, you shouldn't be like that. But we're showing them how to be. We're showing them how not to be, also importantly. Who is modeling for them, who's instructing them. Yeah, okay, so we have the parents and all of that. But then again, do we even have this consciousness? All right, do we even have this consciousness that then allows us to be able to be very intentional as to how we build? Or we just think that the boy child is like weed, leave it and it will just keep growing. Focus on the girls, groom them, teach them, make them prim and proper, build them up, inspire them, give them strength, empower them, and then leave the male child, the boy child, to grow. I have two sons, and the teenagers, and I know the amount of work that had to go into building them up, had to go into growing them, had to go into ensuring that they have the right perspective. I know the challenges with them swaying one way, and as I heard today, also applying the sandwich approach, which is love, which is fun, and which is firmness. So you have a sandwich of love, fun, and firmness. And all that is just designed to be able to get them to the place of having the right standing, having the right perspective, being able to choose the right kind of models, being able to be drawn or attracted to the right kind of mentors in life. Because you know what? Here's something I know. You can parent your kids, but guess what? You've got to be able to build a world in which the other influences, the experience that they're going to be exposed to can also shape them and build them up. So it's not just about people with biological children, it's about every single person. But I'm not doing this alone. I've got a couple of guests that will be joining me today, as you probably have seen on the flyers. And the first person I'm going to be bringing in is somebody that I place my hand on my chest, and I'm extremely proud to the certain degree of the level of influence that I've had in his life. It's somebody that I met when he was an NYSC core member, and our interaction ran very deep. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring him straight into the studio. Joining me from, is it Abuja or Lagos now? I think it's Lagos. Joining me from Lagos, Benjamin Sarumi. Benjamin, it's great to have you in the studio.
Hi, Mr. Naked. It's such an honor to be here. I'm elated to be here. It's been 2018 since I last saw you, 2018, 2019. But then I've never stopped loving and feeling the impacts you rubbed off on me since those days in Akwa Ibom, Uyo. So thank you very much. And I also remember like some 2 years ago, 2020, during the pandemic, we had a conversation. I was honored to be on the Connect as well, where we spoke about my Nigerian dream. And then the Nigerian dream was vivid and missed the COVID-19. And, I'm glad that the narrative is a continuum. And again, what can I say? We are having this Connect session in the heat of another moment. It's not a pandemic, but it's something that could grow into a pandemic. So it's a mental conditioning pandemic, if I have the right to say so. I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great. It's great to be here. It's great to have you here as always, Benjamin. And I can't even begin to say how extremely proud I am of you. And we're going to get the conversation going. But first of all, I want to get your personal take on what's happening in Sokoto State right now, Sokoto State, Nigeria. What's your take on it, first of all? Because it makes no sense. There's nothing that we can do and act like we're not aware of what's going on. So it's the first port of calls, the first port of discourse for me. What's your take on what's going on in Sokoto?
Amazing. So religion is the opium of the masses. A very intelligent man once wrote. An opium is a plant that gives access to healing or relief. So it gives a certain experience. So if it's an opium, it's meant to validate or reduce pressure in a way, whilst making you retain your level of consciousness of mortality and humanity. Then, if you say religion is the opium of the masses, there is a socioeconomic condition into that, which is the masses. So the masses would always be around the socioeconomic class of the C1, C2, thereabouts, D and the E, people who are struggling or people who are aspiring to become better versions of themselves. So in the philosophy or psychological angle to that quote states that religion is something that could help you become a better version of yourself, or religion is something that could help you look beyond your present limitation, a sense of relief, validation, a sense of what, just like Maslow's pyramid of human needs and conditions, deep states, man needs association. So if religion is that point that gives you access to belonging to a society or a cooperative organization that helps you, feel amazing, then it is what it is. Religion could be set up cultures, rules, regulations, laws, policies held by a category of people, a focus group, if I need to say, and then they religiously, I don't want to use the word religiously, they take it as a tradition. It becomes a part of their lives, just like you say, habits would form into cultures and then tradition. So it becomes a part of their lives, and then they just want to do everything without thinking behind the why. So it is a function of what you do versus the why you do. But when you are locked up into religion, you don't understand the why anymore. And when the why is sealed beyond the 10th layer of this earth, your common sense is not activated. And once common sense is denied to any human being, like Fela said, you become a zombie. So you use all of your strength to defend something you don't understand. And it saddens my heart that we are at this point in a nation called Nigeria. So the nation called Nigeria isn't just the Niger area from 1914, but a marriage of independent, intelligent, articulate, gifted individuals who allowed an amalgamation for the purpose of prosperity, posterity, and also brotherly love. So when we say a mental conditioning and has allowed us to forget the essence of our being, not just being humans alone, but being people who are aligned into the same doctrine or the concepts of a nation called Nigeria, we have forgotten who we are. And if man does not remember thyself, man is just a being without a purpose. And need I reiterate the most common phrase, when the purpose of a thing is unknown, abuse becomes evidence. Evidence, pardon me, not just inevitable. So what we see today in Sokoto is the evidence of abuse. Abuse of something that could liberate you to become something that has caged you. Abuse of something that could transform you to become something that has deformed you. Abuse of something and elevate you to become something that will limit you. I began by saying religion, a wise man once said, is the opium of the masses. So are we saying, or is it safe to say, that religion has become a caging factor or a mechanism to cage the masses? If that is true from that angle, are we then saying that if it is a medium or a process or a structured directive to cage the masses, would there be salvation for those same masses? Now, slaves can get angry. Are you still there with me, sir?
I'm with you. I'm listening.
Slaves can get angry. Slaves who are limited, any limited individual will get frustrated. And if it's a slave or she is a slave, frustrated, restricted, locked in a place, angry, feel like you're no longer a human being, an animal, you want to bust out and destroy stuff. And if you're feeling like you're an animal because you're a slave, economically, socially, emotionally, sidelined, politically, whatever way, the only thing you can do is lash out at the slimmest opportunity you have. So what is the salvation for slaves? Freedom. Emancipate yourself from mental poverty. Emancipate yourself from mental poverty. I'm not saying don't be religious. I'm not saying I do not for following your religious sentiments or just following what you believe in. I am saying emancipate yourselves. Always ask yourself why. When I was in university so many years ago, one of my role models, Pastor Sam Adeyemi, said something. When somebody slaps you, you have 4 seconds to decide your action. And it became a mantra for me. It wasn't just a slap. It was an argument for me. It was anger for me. So when you get me angry, I have 4 seconds to decide. Do I stay here? Do I walk away? Because God has given us biology, and He has given us hormones, and He has given us everything the universe will allow us exist in, to respond. So if I need to respond and I do not want to respond, it is best for me to walk away. But what happened in Sokoto some days ago in our dear country only shows to say that the need for mental conditioning superrides the need for political emancipation. Because until we get it right as a people, we can't elect the right leaders. Now, the leaders, the people are a representation of their leaders. If that is true to say, it is then obvious to us all that a boy today becomes a man tomorrow. And the majority of the people who committed those atrocities, if I need to say, quote and unquote, are men. And if they are men, they did it openly, and I could see some young boys also partake in that. So are we in a case of building men in a particular region of the country and leaving the other boys who become men in the other particular region of the country? It just saddens my heart.
Benjamin, I mean, I feel the thrust, the direction in which you're going, and my heart is even as heavy laden as yours. All right, so I can see that Eileen is in the waiting room, and I'm going to be bringing Eileen into the studio shortly. But I want you to hold your thoughts, Benjamin, because this is already going in the direction of the conversation for today. Because what you've dealt with is look at the background. How did we get to this point? You know, in your own opinion, and going by the facts and information and evidence available to you, how did we get to the point? How did we get to the point where it's okay to do this? How do we get to a point where somebody thinks, you know what, in the name of my God, this is what I ought to do? It's a real concern. But I'm also concerned about how, not just how we got here, but what the reaction has been. It's even more worrisome with regards to what the reaction has been since it happened. And we'll be circling back to that. But I'm going to be going to the waiting room now. My second guest for today is here. I was just giving her time to settle in and all of that. I could see her from the waiting room. I'm going to be bringing her in a few seconds. Eileen is no stranger to the Connect. In fact, Eileen is the Connect. The Connect. And so I'm going to be bringing in Eileen Adebayo, and she's been, I'm sure a lot of you have not seen her in public for a while. Okay, you're wondering, where's Eileen been? We've not seen Eileen. Eileen is going to come and talk to us about the boy child very soon. All right, so there you go. Eileen, it's great to have you join us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. Yep. It's good to be here.
Right. It's amazing. You've been on a hiatus for a while. You've been out of public scenes in a while. Do you want to let us in as to what's been going on with you before we go?
Sincerely, I would let you in on what has been going on with me. I think what has been going on with me is why we have this particular episode. Okay, I was busy trying to make a second baby, and the second baby is a boy. So now I have two boys, so it's enough reason to be here. Two boys.
Welcome to the club.
So that's one thing that comes with being a woman, a wife, and mother eventually. So that's what has been. That's basically what has been with me. I've been hiding for over 10 months. No, I think it's gone into 13 months now, trying to take care of baby and all of that. But you see, because of the passion, I had to come out from the short break now when it has to do with boys. I remember when I started talking about boys, people say, what's the whole thing about boys? I said, well, naturally, even if you'd had an idea of, oh, the boys are not being taken care of. But when you now realize that you now have boys, and the narrative, I don't know if you had noticed one of the flyer when I was trying to push it out. I said, all boys are rapists. You know, I put that in quotation. All boys are rapists in quotation. You know, I've read that on social media. I've heard people also say that. You know, but when you have a boy child as a son, you wouldn't want that to be sent out as a narrative for the child. You know, absolutely. So that's why we really need to have more and more of all these meetings, more and more of these gatherings. Let's change the narrative. Yes, okay, we begin to dissect. Why do we have this terrible narrative that all boys are rapists? Let's sit down and try to correct this mindset. Is it a mindset thing? Is it a mindset thing that we say, okay, people just don't like the male gender, or is it that the male gender have put up this impression that we have no choice to assume that all men are rapists? Personally, I don't believe that. I've never believed that.
Eileen, hold on a second. I'm going to jump in now. Before you go forward, and I know you came raring to go and all of that. I just as I said with Benjamin, right? I mean, there's the issue, there's the situation in Sokoto. I cannot even let us proceed without, having a discuss about that for a few minutes. I mean, at best or at worst. So what's your take? What's your take on what's going on in Sokoto? And if you can find a way to bring it to what our discuss for today is all well and good. But I'm interested to know, I mean, what's your personal stance on what's going on right there? The mayhem, the madness.
Personal stance is first, you don't take anybody's life. First, don't take anybody's life for any reason. No, you shouldn't take anybody's life for any reason, first of all. We have a law, okay? At least it should have been tried, whatever. I know I've been trying to understand how it works, because I say Christians cannot or the Sharia law does not cover Christians being scrutinized or whatever it is. But I also think that's typical of jungle justice, because there should be a history of whatever went on in the past. I've read an interpretation of what she said in Hausa when she said, "God forbid nothing will happen to us." So what do you think may happen? That was reacting. She was reacting to something. You know, when I joined the room, the studio, our guest was saying something about the 5 minutes. What he learned from Pastor Sam, that he said, just calm down for 5 minutes before you express yourself. Okay, maybe she had expressed herself as it came in. Okay, but even those people who heard the voice note, there should be the question of what did they say that triggered her to react like this. You know, because the first thing is, God forbid nothing would happen to us. So probably there would have been something that would have been said, and she was reacting. On the other hand, it's sad. I heard that too. It's sad, and I watched it too. That is boys, majorly boys, I saw in the video, championing all of these things. But it comes down to what would I say? The foundation. It comes down to whatever information they have. That is what they have been taught. Okay, you maim somebody, you kill somebody. That's what they believe. My joy is that even core Muslims, yes, core Muslims are arguing that first of all, there's no blasphemy. The Muslims are saying that. The same, another set of Muslims are saying that that shouldn't warrant. There's nowhere in the Quran that you should kill somebody, you know. But you know, I can't personally talk about whatever it's there, because I am not one of them, so I don't know what is there. But however, I don't think any religion should accept killing somebody for the God. We have a God, isn't it? God can fight for himself. That's why we say, let God judge you. God can fight for yourself. You know, and we can't even say it's a place of education, because I've read people who are enlightened, who with them to be educated. I've even heard learned people referring to lawyers supporting it. You know, that it's a religion thing. It's, you know, so I may not speak from a place of facts, okay? But if I speak as a human being, no, let everybody be tried in the court of law. Let's not do, and we shouldn't be having jungle justice. We have a system. Even in the north, there's a Sharia system. Even if you understand, so they should have just allowed it to be tried. They even have a school authority. Take her to the school authority. Don't take laws in your hands.
It's a very sad situation, and it's a dark day for us in Nigeria. It's a very dark moment. And it's so deep, and it's so that this is now coinciding with the International Day for the Boy Child, because like both of you have rightly said, Benjamin and Eileen, as you rightly said, if you look at the occurrences, you realize that, look, I don't see ladies running around there, I don't see girls running around there. I see boys, I see young men, and I'm wondering what exactly, we're already here. This was the future we dreaded. This was that future that we're all afraid of, that if you don't train a child in the way it should go, this is how it will turn out. They've turned out that way now. What's the way forward with regards to the boy child? Let me jump over to Benjamin. Benjamin, let me go to the basics a bit. First of all, what was it about the boy child? I mean, what is it about the boy child that made you such an enthusiast, made you such an advocate? What's your story?
Wow, so you know my story like the back of your hand. Such a pleasure to be here again. And the beautiful lady, thank you for being mommy to boys. I know that could be dancing, but then God is your strength. Yeah, so this is it. I like to talk beyond I'm a survivor, right? Molested as a child for several years, and rape became normal. It became sex. I became objectified. I became conditioned to wanting to just please ladies. And then, you know, like I often tell people, rape makes you an ape. It takes you away from your human state to becoming an ape because you feel like you're not human. And I've written articles about the objectification, misandry, misogyny. What's the other one? The concept, societal refusal to accept the concept of the psychological attraction to older people, gerontophilia, right? So rape makes you become different people. It makes you become bisexual if you're not careful, if you don't want to talk about it, if you don't get help. Rape breaks you. I understand that there's a school of thought that says you could have high self-esteem, low self-esteem. Rape makes you have no self-esteem. I understand that rape as well, being a right? Many years after I've been raped, I still have flashbacks, and it takes the help of God. Therapy helped me. Prayer helps me to scale out of it. So, recently I just relearned that heaven does not help those who help themselves. Heaven help those who ask for help. Right? And I think we lost Aneka.
No,
okay,
right.
yes, right. Oh, fantastic. Heaven help those who help themselves. No, heaven help those who ask for help. I've been able to ask for help. I keep asking for help from God, from support systems, and I help myself, personal reflections and all of that. So all of that has made me since 2016, but 2017 fully to scale, talking to boys, being there. Because really, they say hurting people hurt people, but man, that isn't correct with me and a couple of young men who I know who have been molested. I'm the category of the hurt people who just want to love people, because sometimes they say broken people don't understand self-love. But I tell you, as a broken man, young man, loving myself comes from loving other people and showing them what love is. Because normal people, if I could use that word, do not understand what love is, right? So if you've been raped, you've been abused, you've been molested as a boy child, and you decided to allow your life not be conditioned to what you went through, you understand that there is more to life. And if love is the best way to know yourself, you want to show people the love that God has shown you, right? And this is not a concept of religion. Even the scripture says that different holy books and philosophies have said it. A hungry child walks up to the father or mother and asks for bread. No father will give the child snake, except if it's a barbecued snake. The hungry child. Right. Yes. Yes.
I didn't get that.
Okay. No. I didn't say she didn't get that, so yeah, doesn't have to say it again. But I know in the world am I gonna have barbecued snake? Nowhere in the world. This is not gonna happen to me.
Should I say that again? I said
yes,
the only scriptures, the only two scriptures and books and philosophies had said it, that no child walks up to the father or mother asking for bread, and the father or mother will give the child a snake. What the father would do or the mother would do is give the child a barbecued snake. Yeah, you got it now.
I got that
fantastic.
Now. Yeah, I did.
So my point exactly is love is a function of human society. Love is a function of your human essence and your core. The word humanity by etymology has broken down, explains the fact of a fragile, vulnerable entity that is empowered by an external concept. Now, religion will make me understand that that external concept is God. So why did I jump into the boy child space? Fantastically, boys ought. Africa has conditioned men and boys not to speak about their pain, and then they become toxic in a way. So society has told you that men, you must be masculinely enabled. Your structures, your belly, everything, your strength, your forearms, your biceps, your mind, you must be the provider and all of that. It is right. I said this with boy child space because a toxic boy today becomes a toxic man tomorrow. A scorned boy today becomes a bullied man tomorrow. And then a frustrated parent would frustrate the wife and frustrate the children. And then that just becomes a value chain of pain. So I couldn't stand that. I don't want to wake up tomorrow when I become a parent and then the only time my child is happy is when they step out and go to school and learn from other people what I could not teach them. I don't want to be that man when I get married to my amazing wife, wherever she is, and then all she just complains is my attitude and me locking myself in because I'm trying to process my pain. I couldn't afford to make a lot of boys go through that. And that's why I started talking about boy child advocacy. A boy today becomes a man tomorrow. And then it's been a beautiful journey thus far. Building the boy child is not easy. There was a time where I couldn't even hold it myself. And one of my role models said to me, you are helping other boys become this and that and that and that. Don't you want to take a break and help yourself? So I needed to take a break at some point, and I became a resource person to my colleagues in this field. If you ask any questions, fantastic. I'm going to talk about my rape experience, gather parents, and then because when a child is raped, male or female, the child withdraws or does things excessively. And then you know the way Nigerian and African parents are. If you're asking your child defensively about something when you should actually call the child and have, with love. But maybe love again is a concept you don't yet understand. So that is why I jumped into the boy child space. Love your wife as Christ loves the church. Love your neighbor as you will love yourself. And maybe you don't understand what loving ourselves means. Because if I love myself, I will not hurt myself. An African proverb says when you throw a stone into the market, it might eat somebody you know. So if I understand that, that if I look into the mirror and the reflection of the person I see is me, and I can hurt the other person who lives around me, then I've just hurt myself. So love itself is an understanding of the essence of the universe. And the universe is whatever you give, you get. Are people selfish? Yes. Are people caring? Yes. But then the vibe you give to the universe is what the universe gives back to you. So I had to get into the boy child space because the little time I have with them, I often like to do a long time coaching or mentoring session. We learn from ourselves. 3 months, 6 months with a short focus group of boys. The last time I did it was 2020. I had 13 boys during the pandemic, and I spent 6 months of my life with them. And I'm grateful. 6 boys in the trenches of Ikorodu. And then we did everything, got them football, got them jerseys, got them boots, got even Kano to say a shout out to them on Twitter. It was interesting because before that time, these boys didn't have a sense of what. And the pandemic was even making it worse, so they could join cultism and all of that. But we had to sit with these boys and make them understand that, the government is the representation of who you are and what your decisions can be like. So from the ages of 6 to the ages of 13, I had to stay with them every day for 6 months because nobody was going to the office, and made them understand that you can become a better version of yourself. Because you live in a garage does not make you a car. I'm going to say that again. Because you live in a garage, it doesn't make you a car. Yeah. So a garage is made for cars. Because you are born in the slum, it doesn't make you. God loves you more than the devil hates you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to. Okay. Yeah, Benjamin. Hold on, Benjamin. Let me. One of the things that I get from what you've said, I've heard your story quite a number of times. You've had signals to it, but for the benefits of the public, I needed you to come through it. And you made up your mind, as you said to me many years ago, that you had to be responsible for putting an end to a chain of trauma. In other words, a scorned child becomes a scorned man. A burnt child becomes a burnt man. Where does the change happen? So we're going to come to the nitty gritty, and then you were able to programatize this. You were able to create a system whereby you could deploy some sort of intervention for the boy child in the space that you're in. Let me go over to Eileen, and I'm curious to know. For many reasons. What was it exactly? Eileen has been talking about the boy child as far as I can remember. When it was not even, then nobody, it was all about the girl child, the girl child, the girl child. And then you now see these females, not even a guy. A female now comes and says, let's talk about the boy child. She was practically like a sellout. Like I could see the committee of women, League of Women say, we are taking away from our message, but that wasn't so. If we're going to be having gender balance and gender equity, then there was a need to look at both genders. Eileen, what's your story?
Well, thank you, AU. My story is basically, it came out from a place of, I think 2 things. First, when you have a boy and you hear the narrative that is already out, okay, let's try to change this and find out if it's really true. And okay, for example, if we say, I know there was a story, someone said, a man said he wanted to enter a tricycle or a minibus or something of that nature. And when he entered, he saw only men. As in him, he is a guy. He saw only guys in the bus. He came down, okay? Because, you know, typically if it's a woman, she would come down and say she didn't like the look of the men. But if it's a man too who is also going there and is coming down, so yes, there's something around it. So we need to sit down. So when I gathered all of this from what we've been hearing, what we've been reading, we just say, okay, you know what? We need to gather everybody, gather the boys, gather the men. Let's have this discussion, okay? And another reason too is we focused a lot on the girl child. We tell the girls to be this, tell the girls to be princesses, tell the girls that. When we don't groom the male child to be the king, so where the queens and the princesses, who did they end up get marrying to? Who are they going to get married to? Who are they going to interact with? You understand? So let's have a balance. Let's have the queen and the king. Let's not have queen, princesses, and we have frogs, you know. So it was just a balanced thing. So we know that now. I now understood that, you know, this is a very large and wide space. You don't only talk to them, you need mentors for them. You know, you don't only talk to the boys, you also talk to the parents. For example, parents, every child grew up, not necessarily every child, but then we expect that almost every child grew up under an adult, sort of, okay? And the parents have great influence over them. So that's why we need to also talk to the parents. So that's why the whole thing just came. You know, I said, okay, this is a gap we really need to settle down to understand. It's a big gap. We need men to gather and talk to men. I remember a lady calling me and saying, okay, you said we should involve our children in the kitchen, Abby. So she said, I involved my son. And the next thing he said, but I've not seen daddy come to cook in the kitchen. I said, that's the problem. When a woman is talking to her son, the son looks at it as, okay, mommy's just telling me to do a task, an assignment, a household chore, you understand? He doesn't take it as a responsibility until he sees his father or a father figure or a man do it, and he now realizes that there's nothing wrong with this thing. Most men will cook. Most men who know how to cook will tell you, when I left the house, I stopped cooking. You understand? And that's basically because it was mommy who was telling them to cook. But they realized, remember, because that Popsy, they enter kitchen, they cook. Popsy go cook for us, you know. Once in a while, it gives this kind of understanding that, look, this is a path. This is a way of life. You know, it's not, I know we're even preaching, okay, let men know that it's a survival skill. That one is so that maybe when you're in university or where you're without your parents, it's a survival skill. But you should let them know that it is worth doing. There's really nothing there. Cleaning up the house, cleaning up after you, cleaning up when your wife is in the house and all of those things. Boys will now grow to understand, because you hear some arguments say, my papa no cook for my mama, my papa no enter kitchen, you know. And that is how the circle just grows over and over again. Now I'm glad the guest has also brought in something about issue of rape and all. If we want to check facilities where we have underage children, we have more boys there from dysfunctional homes, or even those who may have been in a functional home. We know that there was an absentee father figure. Sincerely, I understand the way society works, and I feel for all those who will be raised by a single parent. But I always try to balance up in anything I say, is that just get a father figure over that child. This is it. Mothers check for different things on their son. But a father knows, you know, the same thing that they'll say, a mother looks at a daughter and knows when probably she's having an affair, or when she's, there's one idea running through her head. But a woman may not be very smooth in identifying for the son. But if there's a male figure around, you will just know what's happening. You know, so the whole idea was, look, you know what, we need to settle down and have this discussion. Parents, let's have the discussion. How are we raising our boys? This idea of don't allow your sons to enter the kitchen, we have to review it. This idea that you know, you don't have discussions with your children. You only pass down information. So that's why you have women. Your elder brother is doing this, your brother is doing this, and you now go into marriage having that mindset. You can't even discuss with your wife. You know, you have this like you're passing authority, just passing a command. We have the communication gap. So it's just a holistic thing. that one person can't take. That's the truth. So I am glad that we have so many people now in the space. So when those who say, okay, we're going to focus on talking to only parents, I'm glad. Other people who say, okay, I'm going to focus on talking to only boys, I am glad. You know, like he also identified when there's issue of rape, because look, the thing is, when I'm on radio or when I've gone out, I've heard people saying rape on a boy child is not rape now. And that's wrong. Interview those boys one-on-one, they'll tell you how broken they are. And that's how it destroys the fabric of leadership, fabric of the home, fabric of... That's why most people just lose their emotions, because I have a problem, I come to you, and you say, no, it's not a problem. That's not an issue now, move on, you're a man. Why should that be an issue? You know, so we have really, what's the word? We really stifle the male child. We don't allow them to speak up. If a man cries, you say, why is he crying? You hear, you're not supposed to cry now. You're not supposed to cry. No. That's so bad. Allow him express himself. That's how he begins to bottle up. He can't express himself, or they'll say, now only woman they cry. You know, as small as those things may have an impression on children. You have an impression on everybody. You know, so even when I know there was a day I saw a post where somebody said that I think a groom was crying, and someone said, "Twa, for my husband to cry, God forbid that." And he's expressing himself. So we've tried too much to just make the male child be very masculine. So even when we now say, amen, you know, try to communicate, you know, they're saying, no. And I would say that when you're crying, it doesn't emasculate you. When you communicate, it doesn't emasculate you. If you're domesticated, it doesn't emasculate you, you know. So we need to balance it up. We need to, okay, when we talk of issues of domestic violence, a lot of men are facing domestic violence, but they can't speak up. Because the society is like,
I want you to say it again. A lot of men are facing, say it again. I want to hear it again.
A lot of men actually are facing domestic violence, physical abuse to be very specific, okay? But they may not be able to speak up because, first of all, na man you be. That line, na man you be, is this kind of thing that rubs off on your ego. It tries to tell you that you shouldn't you shouldn't express yourself, okay? If a man tries to express himself and you're crying and say, no crying, a man you be. You get me? So when they go through these challenges, they can't express themselves. It's beyond the fact that you know, first of all, they won't believe you. First of all, most people won't believe you. They'll say, how you do? Yeah, so we need to open up our communication. We need to learn to accept everybody when they communicate, okay? You listen to the man, what he has to say. You try to dissect the issue, you know. You need to allow the men speak up when it comes to issues of domestic abuse, physical abuse.
Okay, hold on, Eileen. I'm going to give you an opportunity to go forward, but let me just interject a bit, right? So I'm a part of a group, right? It's called Conversation for Men, and I've been a speaker a number of times on that platform, and it's really interesting because you just have men come together to have a conversation. And one of the things that, you know, we've talked about has always been about that transition stage, the transition stage from boys to men, and how so much happens, you know, in that space. And so you have the first 7 years that are extremely very formative and extremely pivotal to development, and a lot of things are more or less solidified. But you see, that transition stage where they go from being boys to being men is where people think, I've done the work. And so you are there, you could be there when they're toddlers, as in investing your time. And I'm speaking to parents and caregivers now. You could invest your time and your presence, but you now feel that, you know what, they're growing up. We need to give them some level of independence, which, you know, to a certain degree, I have teenagers. And so there's a balance there. Give them the level of freedom, let them be able to. But you see, that transition period is extremely important. And my understanding and the research that I've done for a few months and a few years show clearly that that's where you have the greatest cracks, the greatest gaps, and that's where they fall in between, you know, that's where they fall in between. So now, the question is, Eileen, what would you say with regards to that particular period, which is usually the teenage period. So many things. First of all, whilst they may have certain ideas whilst they were younger, they didn't have, number one, the physical strength to be able to carry out those ideas. They also didn't have the kind of liberty to be able to carry out those ideas. They didn't get to be out of the house as much. All right. Neither did they get to interact with as many people as they do in, say, the teenage years. What exactly can you say with regards to that? Because we're talking about building the boy child. What do parents, caregivers, and even older boys need to be aware of? And I will take this with Eileen and then come to Benjamin as well. Need to be aware of with particular reference to this period and this stage in life. Eileen.
Okay. For the parents, okay. For the parents, they need to communicate with their children. Now, you see, while we grew up, we know that our fathers would always, our parents anyway, both sides would tell you how they never failed in school. They always have, they put themselves in this position where they are all very perfect. And so when a child is transitioning, they don't want to fail. They don't have the idea that, you see, parents should be open to children at all levels. When they are transitioning, everybody wants to be the perfect child my daddy was, or the perfect child daddy wants me to be. Okay, let's have this natural or sincere discussion of the challenges they would face. Let's have this natural discussion of the real life out there. Now, most times when they want to give the real life expression, they just make it look like it's a place of fear. No, let them try so many things. Now, the so many things will be in line with what is legal. Okay. Imagine a child comes to a father and wants to be like a musician, and the father is against music. Why do you want to be? I think the major thing is communicate with your children so that when they are transitioning, they would know that it's understandable. There's someone I talked to recently. Your son is supposed to be in the university, isn't it? He said, yes, but where is he? He said he's not in the university. He said, why? He said, look, I'm one person who believes that when they are moving from secondary school to university, they make wrong choices. I know what my son would want. I'm quoting her now. I know what my son would love to study, but he wants to study something else. So I'm giving the 1 year for him to try so many things. So he's doing a lot of free online courses, free this, free that. And at the end of the day, she said, he has come to change his course. As in, I don't want to study this, I want to study that. I don't want to study this, I want to study that. That's also a problem. When they are transitioning, because we want them to finish at 20, I want to study this, you allow them to go study it. And you know as a parent that your child may not be very good in medicine, or just because you want to be a parent to a medical doctor, you let them go. We have a lot of people who studied courses they didn't want to be to study because of the influence of their parents. I believe when they are transitioning on both genders actually right now, when they are transitioning, parents should be realistic. Okay, you could be confused about certain things. You could be, let's just have the open discussion. Now, when they are also transitioning, let's go in terms of relationship. Okay, parents would always have discussion around, be careful, I know it's girls that tell that one to, be careful, when men come to you. You understand? But many of them don't have that discussion with their sons. If they're having discussion with sons, say, be careful, don't impregnate somebody. And that's all they get to know when they are transitioning. No. Let them even know that older women will harass you. That's another angle no one talks about. Older women, if you want to talk about so many men, their first connection with sex is from older women. So let's open up. It's a wide discussion when they are transitioning. For your mind, this is what's going to happen. For relationship and your emotions to come up. You may have somebody you are having a crush on, or some people will be interested in you. You understand? You could also talk about finances when they are transitioning. Forget the fact that people are spending so much money. You don't know how they got it. It's not legal. So it's a broad thing. Now, I know someone would ask, okay, you keep saying father figure. Look, there's an influence women have, and there's also an influence men have. Okay? we all see, like when people say is daddy now, daddy will never understand. That's how girls would interpret when a man is involved in their discussion, and a woman is supposed to understand it. So also should we have mentors or father figures for the boys, because those are the ones that would understand the boy. I have a woman, I know someone who said the first time she barged into her son's room and she found an erection early hours of the morning. Hey, she cried, oh, my sons have spoiled. She cried so much and she had to go meet her pastor. Her pastor laughed at her very much and said, because she was a single parent to 2 boys. And the pastor laughed at her and said, no, that's normal. In fact, if you don't find it early in the morning, so there's a problem. That's where you should even cry that there's a problem. You understand? So when they are transitioning now, she didn't even know that, and they were teenagers. So I'm sure they were scared of even telling her what they were going through early hours of the morning. So when they are transitioning, these are the general discussions. In fact, with the way the society is, we encourage sex education very early enough because the children hear a lot of things. So when they are transitioning, you should move from be careful, don't go and impregnate to any girl, to look, people would harass you for it. Both genders now, people will harass you. Both with the way the society, both genders will harass you. You need to put your emotions in check. The fact that you like a beautiful lady does not mean you should go into a relationship with her. You understand? And that transitioning position is actually it's actually very blurry. It's not clear.
It is. Hold on, Eileen. Let me take a comment, right, that just came in. This is from Obinna Jogu. Shout out to you, Obinna Jogu. Obinna Jogu says, fathering and bringing up a boy child is a process which is like the process of going to school. There's no one answer and process or all process. As parents, we should be open to learning, which will help in the process of bringing up a boy child. And I agree absolutely with this. And this brings me to the next.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I can.
Okay. All right. So I was saying that as a father to 2 teenagers, one of the things I've come to learn, talking with regards to, there was something that Benjamin said. He said, look, you can go through a situation. Now, in his case, it was rape, and it doesn't leave you, it doesn't give you low self-esteem, or it doesn't give you high self-esteem. It leaves you with no self-esteem. So I want to have a conversation about emotional, our emotional balance. Now, one of the things that I've always done, I've always been very careful about, is I've tried to study my sons to see their moods, their states, how they're able to respond to situations of life, their reactions, as well as their responses, and understand, look, how emotionally developed are they? Are they meeting the milestones of self-awareness? Are they able to, do they have problem solving disposition? Are they just given to seeing a situation and then whichever way it comes, or do they have a mindset that helps them go through a process? And this is perhaps one of the biggest challenge that the boy child has, because like Eileen rightly said, you know what, nobody wants to discuss emotions with you. I was really fortunate, really blessed to have and to still have a father. My dad is 83 years old. To still have a father who, at a very early age, was willing to have that kind of conversations with me. Ask me why I will get upset over a thing, and then discuss it, to the very basics. Now, at that point in time, it wasn't even something I could share with my friends, because going back to school, it wasn't the kind of story you wanted to tell. You wanted to tell the macho story. You wanted to tell how strong, you are and all of that. And so those kind of conversations were not conversations that, even though you received them at that very point in time, you were not too excited about them. It is only with hindsight that you've come to appreciate, all right, that you've come to appreciate those conversations. Now, with speaking to the emotional state of mind, and this also, incidentally, is the month of mental health awareness and the mental health week. Benjamin, speaking to the emotional states of mind, what would you say forms some of the best approaches and some of the hands-on experiences that you have had with the different groups that you've worked with regards to ensuring that they have a good emotional state of mind? Benjamin.
Thank you so much. I've been raising my hands up since like primary school. Okay, yes. So I wrote a couple of things down, and I would like to speak to those things as I address your question, sir. Is that fine?
Yeah, go ahead.
Parenting. I'm a creative and I like to play with words. So I would say parenting is pay rent in. So you are parenting a child, but you are paying your rent into that child, because what your job is to support and to lead. Now, children don't come from you, children come through you. And if that is understood, you would understand that the place of support and leadership would help condition the mind of your male or female child, but in respect of this discourse, the male child. You once told me while I was in Akwa Ibom, you're serving under your amazing leadership, that the first law of leadership is observation. And even though by then I didn't have an amazing suit, I would walk like you, I would talk like you, but I've not succeeded in having my beard like yours, Anita. Right. So if observation is the first law of leadership, or the first step to the door knocking process of leadership, it therefore means that there must be some intentionality to the activity of bringing up a child, which just clearly defines what a parent is. There is an activity and a process to bringing up a child. I don't want to go faster than myself, but I'll try to articulate everything I've written down here to answer that question of emotional balance, notification, wellness of the male child, and how it translates into building a well-rounded man or boy. Good. So if observation is key, and your role as a parent is to support and lead, your child from the formative stages will learn what dad or mom would do, what your siblings would do. Then it just alludes to the concept of psychology, who says a child can either be raised either by nurture or nature. And over time, I've concluded that there is a thin line between nature and nurture, and that thin line is distortion. So if humans are a product of their society or a conjoined product of their mental conditioning, it therefore means that somebody must have said something, somebody must have obstructed, disrupted, or injected something into that process of nurturing and nurturing that child. Right. Now, so if nature and nurture is the right thing, so what is the responsibility of a boy in a society where he is told to act like a man, and then he observes a role model who he calls father, or in some cases a role model he calls mother, and then the mother becomes father and mother because she's a single parent, or the father becomes father and mother because he is a single parent. Now, science, literary work, different therapists have said the responsibility of a father is to nurture, and to protect the child. So if that is the responsibility Nigeria and Africa present to any boy child or any young man or male figure or male configuration, regardless of gender, then what are the boys being taught to nature? What are they taught? Are they taught to nature within an idea, a concept, a person? How do you bring other people up? Do you climb them because you need to get to the top? Do you want to seek glory and validation every time? Pardon my French. Do you want to see yourself as alpha, beta male? Do you want to be judged by your star zodiac signs? Or do you want to evaluate yourself and become a part of a small consequence that helps you become a better version of yourself daily? Now, the Bible says the path of the righteous shines bright and bright to the perfect day. So there is an activation and a process that renews your improvement. Right? So if we have men and women in our society, parents who out of intention or no intention just provide by providing the house, a serene environment, the best of schools, private education, travel abroad. I don't want to mention names. You've seen it on the papers where fellow students rape their fellow students, beat their fellow students, initiate their fellow students, even from primary school, secondary school. formative years. So you train your child so well, and the child goes to a beautiful, amazing citadel of learning, and the child gets to be harassed, cases killed. Have you failed as a parent? Have you nurtured that child aside from creating an environment you could call a safe, natural, existing point for your child? Have you protected your child? Hence the part of emotional, physical protection. The sexiest organ of a human being is not the sex organ, it is the mind. The safest place for any human being is also the mind. So I was going to ask the question, I should ask the question, do we think men are safe? And do you think men need to be protected? If men need to be protected, how should we protect men? Or what level of protection are men seeking? Are men seeking protection for the physical? Or would men come out and say they're seeking protection for the emotional? So in the plight of the boy child out there, or the man or the teenager or the young man growing to become a better version of himself, what protection is he looking for? Is he looking for economic protection? Is he looking for physical protection? Is he looking for financial protection, mental protection? What is he looking for? What kind of protection does he want? Where can he get that protection? From a couple of guys who would laugh at him for saying he was raped or harassed by a girl, or a fellow girlfriend or love interest who would say, man, I came to your house and you didn't touch me. Or then he feels really safe in his religious organization, but then when he steps out of it, he has to form to be an alpha man and have several sexual partners, and then he has to do all he can to satisfy the demands of his parents, his loved ones, and those sexual partners. Are we protecting the male gender from himself when he really cannot find his way back to what he was before? So this brings me back to the concept of intentional parenting. The word intentional means something that is done on purpose, deliberate. Now the next question again is, when does intentional parenting start? In Nigeria and Africa, when does it start? When do we start this process of intentional parenting? Before we get married? The kind of partner we choose? Asking for help from ourselves, from other people, by ourselves, with the help of other people? Or is it when we give birth to children, we begin the process of intentional parenting? When do we do that? Because if you can intentionally sideline other activities and commit your time to raising a child, even as hard as it is in our society and climate today, I think you've done a good job by living a model to read. So I would not judge anybody. I'm not a parent. I do not have children. But what I would say is, regardless of how soft society and adulthood is, which is not a scam, right? Adulthood is the real world. When you get back home, are you pressing your phone talking to your kids? Your children, that is. Are you having conversations with them even when you're tired and then they're seeing, on the last Connect some years ago, I mentioned that if you have 1 hour with your child, male, female, every time you get back from work, and then all you're just talking about was how their day went, and you're not judging them, but you're making them understand why they can't do some other things, they would open up to you. So I have someone I could call a younger brother. He's in university. He has a girlfriend. And I'm telling him, man, how's your girlfriend doing and everything? I hope you're not having sex. He said, man, you should be telling me to just get condom because I can't lie to you. And I didn't judge him. I was like, oh, okay. But then you know that if she gets pregnant or condom breaks, man, you'll be able to graduate from school. You have to face the child. Your SAT you're writing. You want to go to Canada. You want to immigrate. All of that would stop. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't think about it though. And this guy is always coming every time he wants to have sex. Maybe I should avoid that. He found a solution for himself. Because there is a mental picture of the kind of future he wants to future in. And I didn't have to inspire to perspire for him to be a Maguire. Neither did I have to shout. Neither did I have to shout at him and say, if you do it, you're in trouble. I'm disappointed. No.
Wait, sorry.
People go through a whole lot. Please go on.
Sorry, 1 minute. Those are the transition issues we are talking about. You know, when you realistically tell your teenager that, okay, you may be pressured to have sex, and if I tell you not to have sex, you would think maybe I'm being pretentious. Okay, fine. But if you will, these are the things that you are likely to face. It goes beyond. Okay, I know he said he used the example of she gets pregnant and it will truncate your education. Okay, I rather use the area of you may get infected and don't think it's HIV. It could be gonorrhea that you will not notice until how many years later. And how many years later now, we'll be talking about it's full-blown infection and you're no longer fertile. Is that the case? So by the time I give that example, when I go to schools, they always just calm down, because the first thing on their mind is, I get to know when they're right, because most of the time they won't tell me. Is that okay? When it comes to pregnancy, they'll sort it out with condom or after morning pill. Teenagers that there's this transition, you understand? But when you open up that, look, it's not only about sex, so it's not only about being pregnant or all of those things. By the time you express those other things, there's this kind of calmness over them, and they're having a rethink of whatever path they are going through. So I totally agree with you when you say you don't try to shout on them, just try to understand what happened to you when you were 18. And also what happened to other people, because most times we tend to judge by our own kind of maybe strong and firm character or mindset. But what of other people? Your child may not be as tough as you are, probably because of the kind of parenting or the background you try to give them. So yes, we really need to interact and talk about these very dicey issues. Dicey issues.
So just to land on that, you know, somebody was making a joke about grandparents, basically, right? Like they used to beat you when you were young. They were really strict, but then you give birth to a child, and then they say, "Don't touch my grandchild."
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then what they'll tell you is, "I'm going to spoil this child because I raised a child that cannot spoil another child." So there is the balance. So it might seem as though grandparents are all lovey-dovey, but then the transfer of trust ends transgenerational impact, which I'm really afraid about for my generation and then the generations to come. I was making, okay, so I work in advertising and corporate communications and marketing strategy, and then I was writing a copy about the next generation, and I said Gen Doll at the door, because we have Gen Z right now. And so it's like Generation Doll, there's so much information, and then there's less practicality and structure to using that information, which gives wisdom. And that was not to make the next generation feel bad, but it's a campaign I was working at the time. But my point in essence is, the previous generation was really harsh on us, right? But then they raised pillars that could transform the next generation of people who would understand discipline with a flexibility. So they were rigid during their own time, but then my mom understands that there is something Benjamin can do. If he has not changed, there are some things I know my son cannot do, right? Yeah. So when I give birth to my own child, I have to transfer that level of discipline and clarity to purpose. So it is not a function of a social and economic class, but it is the value you bring to society that will make you relevant to any class you belong to or you are presented to. Did the Bible not say the gift of a man will make ways for him, but would the gift of a man sustain that standing before kings? And that is what my generation and the next generation have failed to understand. So I was going to say that, so what do men need protection from? Psychological, physical, emotional, economic fears or threat? So you see a lot of young people right now, they just want to provide for those they love and care about, you know, because they've been conditioned to see being a male figure as that guy who just provides a natural habitat for comfort and then forgets the place of nurturing. So there is a delegation to the female gender, who in turn is being objectified and frustrated by the male gender because she's either going to be used as juju, even when juju isn't a real thing, you know, money rituals and all that stuff, or she's either going to be a side chick or a baby mama and then get bent every time she's 20 years old or 18 years old because either her boyfriend is a Yahoo boy or then he did something else to get money and then he just tries to conceptualize himself into a nomenclature they call internet entrepreneurs. So the old threat my own generation and this gender is economic protection and the validation they find in that protection, or they seek to be protected economically. So if you don't get money out of your face, if you broke now your business, these things begin to go back round and round through the mind of the person. The more you hear it, the more you become it, or the more you want to go against it. And the way the human mind operates is, I tell you not to do it, you're asking me why should I not do it? So if I broke now my business, man, I don't want to be broke. Why should I be broke? When X, Y, Z, A, B, C, E, F, G, whatever person just got committed into this thing. And I understand that there are now schools where people can learn how to do Yahoo Yahoo. I have not seen one. I keep hearing about this thing, and it is painful. It is painful and it is equally shameful, because at the end of the day, some guys who go into these things out of frustration get out of it and are like, man, there is no life in this thing, because their heads are always behind their shoulders, always looking back. So my point exactly is, in raising the boy child for tomorrow and even today, as I would often say on Omokuri, a boy today becomes a man tomorrow. How are we raising these people? What level of intentionality are we raising them? It will become so sad that you would say you want to get married and have sex at wedding night, and everybody look at you like, man, are you kidding me? We live in a toxic society, a queen and more, you're bad demon, and then you have been loyal to a girl or a lady that is not loyal to you. So I begin to think as a young man that every woman I see out there is a prey I need to conquer. So what conditioning is that? That is an emotional conditioning. That is a threat to the emotional essence of the man. So he has become a fiddle human being. He's an hybrid of what society has created him. So if a living, breathing essence that God has designed, and his conditioning become what Nigerian society has made him believe and understand. Everything to survive. And I do think in raising that boy child, no matter what you tell him from home, when he becomes 18 and he sees his colleague driving a 2020 Benz GLE to come with his own mom, he feels lazy. And even if his parents say, man, don't be like that and all of that stuff, there is a part of his mind that says, you know what, man, why can't I do that? My guy did it. And then when society is filled with a whole lot of young 18-year-old boys and 20-year-old boys doing the same thing, it's risky. And then in the next 2 years or 3 years, these boys have side chicks, they give birth to children, and then the child goes to school. And what does your daddy do? My daddy is a businessman. And the cycle just continues. And we just want to give money to our children, put them in the best of schools, and God forbid in the next 10 years, one child dies because another child was influenced by another child, and they wanted to rape a girl and they raped her and killed her, or they wanted to initiate a boy and he was being bullied to his death. It's a cycle I'm afraid of. And all of this is there at protecting the boy child, protecting his mind, protecting his emotions, protecting him emotionally and economically. The right balance, like you said, ma'am, that it just links up into leadership. It links up into everything. Our political class just says it all. An intimidated man who doesn't get help intimidates other people intentionally.
True that. True.
So it is something. So in raising the boy child, we first need to understand that this person is a human being, and you could do all your best to nurture this child, to nurture this child. But how about the distortion vibe, the wave of distortion that comes to him? People could send their children abroad to study or live abroad. But did we not hear about Damilola Taylor some years ago? Just recently, another Nigerian boy some 2 years ago was shot dead because he went to a random grocery store. So it all falls back to every one of us, parents, Nigerians, wherever you are, to understand that leadership isn't just leadership, except when you translate what you know, what you become, and what you do to the next person who is observing you.
Absolutely.
Then takes us back to the concept of parenting isn't just a job of a father and mother. Parenting, intentional or toxic, is a communal practice. It brings us to talk, not just being talk. Like I often say in marketing communication strategy, that I would not jump into any conversation that doesn't lead us to a conversion. I would say, let me allude to marketing. Marketing is a love language. Sales is retaining that love language to build up a relationship on, right? So if that is true, it therefore means that my conversation must always lead to something that would convert to a trade. And so if that is true for marketing and strategy, then every time I have a conversation with a young person or on this platform or with any parents, there must be a mental shift. There must be a mental conditioning that will catalyze the change we want. And that change isn't just a national thing. The change is an individual thing. It is like the end pass movement. We have to go out. There is a pandemic and a epidemic coming up in the next 5 years. Because boys won't even stay in school. There's ASUU strike right now, and some boys are still in school. Some boys who are 17 years old, 16 years old, are still in school, not in their parents' house. Some boys were crying when their parents came to pick them from University of Ibadan. A particular boy trended on Instablog, and his colleagues were laughing at him. You would wash plates, you would take your siblings to school, you would wash car, and the guy was crying, and his father was even embarrassed. That is the society we find ourselves today, because our boys don't have figures, male figures. And even if they have people who talk to them, they will not want to listen because they don't drive a GLE Mercedes Benz. If you drive a Corolla, another person comes to meet you and is driving a Bentley, who do you listen to?
Benjamin, let me jump in there. So much has been said. And, you know, everything that you've laid out, right? I'm literally sitting at the edge of my seat because I'm really thankful for the way that you've broken it down. And it is what it is. That's just the way it is exactly. I mean, this is how it is. It's all playing out. What are the influences? You know, what are those managing? What are those mentoring? What are those modeling? The 3 M's, you know, and everybody innately, regardless of what you say, what are they seeing? What's round about them? Do we have a critical mass of people that are heading in the right direction enough to be able to influence the rest to be able to come? The place for community building. You know, it's been said many times that, look, there's just a limit to how you can parent your child if you don't pay attention to how you can build a community. Because whether you like it or not, that senior in school is going to also play a role in parenting your child. Is also going to play a role in shaping your child. So what have you done by way of infrastructure and systems to ensure that those that your son and your daughters will be exposed to will provide some sort of safety net for them that gives them the chance and the opportunity for them to continue on their journey of becoming the best version of themselves? I'm going to hand over to Eileen now to, you know, speak to some of the things that you've spoken to, as well as throw up some of our points. We have just a few more minutes to go. This is, I mean, there's no exhausting this right now, I can see, but I can speak to some of those things. So Eileen, over to you.
Okay. When it comes to the responsibility of grooming the boy child, everybody should put their hands on deck. Yes, we are in the era of mind your business. Gone are those days that you do something wrong and you'd be like, and the person who was there was your neighbor, and you're sure that he's going to tell your father who's going to discipline you, or your neighbor will discipline you. These days, many of us don't do that anymore because we don't want anybody to say, talk back at us or say mind your business. But the truth is, we have children, we have relatives who are younger, and they will interact with those children someday. So we should, in as much as in the process of minding ourselves, we should try to lend a voice to build everybody, both genders. Please. I think that's one thing we're running. I understand when anybody else I beg, I don't want anybody's child to insult me. But try to make a comment, try to call them to order, you know, because we don't know where our children will meet. So that's why I would also plead to everybody, groom your child, because your child will meet my child. I don't want your child to influence mine. Neither do I want my own child to influence yours negatively. Let's have them interact in a positive and a healthy environment. Okay. Then for parents now, and I think mothers have really mothers are with their children more. Okay. While we are clamoring that both parents should be with their children more. But in the process of being with your child, try not to sell the same narrative that our mother sold to us, okay? The boy should not enter the kitchen. The boy, why am I saying this? I know when I had my second son in the hospital, they were saying, okay, so Auntie Ailey, you're going again. And I said, no, I'm not. They said, why? You have only 2 boys. I said, and I said, no, girls, they take care of the family. Then I told the nurse, I said, that is what used to be, but my own boys would take care of me, and I would also have enough to take care of myself. This is what I'm trying to explain now. It means that you're just training a child that will not be responsible. When you already have the mindset that it's only girls that will take care of. So when a mother is taking care of a girl, you're taking care of her because you expect that she will take care of you later. Or you're taking care of her because you believe that because of her emotional build-up, she'll be the only one who would look after you. But you should train your boys to be emotional in the sense, in the area of, oh, look, you know what? Your parents will also be your responsibility. Now, I'm only saying to those who believe that their children should take care of them, please. That's in quotes, because there are some of us that don't believe that our children should take care of us. There are some of us who believe that, look, we should make enough money to support them to take care of themselves while we also take care of ourselves. Okay, so this is it. Let's have this training. You know what? You have to be responsible the 9 yards. You have to be responsible all round. That's for the male child now. So we should always, every opportunity we have, we should learn to change the terrible narrative of boys don't do this, boys don't. No, boys will do this if you teach them that that's the right thing to do. I remember seeing a post where a young lady said she told her nephew, don't force a lady. And I've had colleagues, in Nkechi Macaulay, who does the Boys Life Matter, I've had her share where boys say amongst themselves that when they force a woman, that's when they enjoy it. Now that's what they call it, that's structuring. That's the lie that someone has told them, that that's the best way to enjoy it. But by the time we keep lending our voices to change all of this, because we don't want to see the boys in prison anymore. These boys are the leaders. That's why we say, okay, let's call everybody to order, act well as a leader in a leadership position, because there's something like subliminal leadership.
Yeah.
You're not the full leader. Nobody knows you as the boss. But people appreciate and admire your sense of style, your sense of responsibility, your decorum, the way you interact with people with respect. You know, so it's an all-round thing. So this is playing on everybody. This is a general plea to everybody. Don't treat the boys like they don't need the extra care. Treat them like they are humans. Train the boys.
You know, Island, that's what I was saying earlier when I said that, you know, we come through a system that nurtures the girls and then leaves the boys to nature. And so like you expect that nobody waters weed. Nobody goes to start pruning or cultivating weed, but weed will grow. Which leads me to this question that someone in the audience put up. It says, is a child raised by nature a native way of raising a child? I believe that's what the question says. If yes, what can you say about an orphan who grows up well-mannered all by himself with a sound mind? I trust that you get the direction of the question. Eileen, can you speak to this as well? And then I'll give Benjamin a chance to speak to this too.
Now, the orphan, yes, he has lost both parents. Good. But he grew up in an environment. He grew up in an environment where he may have seen people who respected or had their foundations, solid foundation, positive interactions with strength and active in all ways, you understand? Yes, he may not have a parent, biological parents, but he could see from his environment. You understand? So let's not, I know the emphasis is parents, but you know what? Some people may not be biological parents, but they teach other people. They are imparting on other people. There are people who will say, my boss is more like a parent to me than my parents. So the point is, wherever you are, please take closer look at the boy child. If we even look at it when it comes to clothes, if you want to talk about it now, if you grow up in a home where they have boys and girls, you know that the girls, they will shop more for the girls and not shop for the boys. And you with black jeans and 4 t-shirts, you're okay now. That's to show you how they just let them groom like that, just grow that way, you know, without trying to guard them. So yes, the environment helps. yes, parents are influenced, but then even as an orphan, the situation in which they found themselves as being an orphan, they'll be like, look, you know what? I know I don't have who would come to bail me out if I look for trouble. So let me do the right thing. While those who have parents will be like, I have luxury of people who come and bail me out if I look for trouble, and they'll be acting in any way. The point is very simple. Yes, I understand the question. Yes, I've been able to interpret that and made you understand that in as much as you're an orphan or someone is an orphan, does not mean that they don't learn from the environment. They don't learn from the people. And before the person became an orphan, there may have been foundations set by the parents that they have held on to.
Very key. Very key.
I was talking to someone.
You know what? Let me just throw a follow-up question to that so that I could further help in expatiating. So now the question is this. With all that we're seeing, I mean, you have a look at Sokoto State. We talked about how the videos has young men, you know, perpetuating all kinds of heinous crimes and all of that. You have examples of how not to be, all right, and all of that. My question is, does it get too late? Is there a generation that is lost? Or is it, are things salvageable? Is it, do we just say, oh, let us focus on those that are growing up now? Because you know what, there's a generation that is lost. Is it too late?
No. It's not too late. It's salvageable, or it's gradually. We will, if we say salvageable and we want to put it in percentage and we assume that it's 90%, no. You know why we shouldn't focus on them, those growing? Because they won't have mentors. If they won't have mentors, what you're telling them is story. Auntie Eileen is just talking story. What is Uncle Anekan doing? Do you understand? So it's a holistic thing. While we talk to them, they need mentors that would hold them hand in hand to take them along. So we should spread the crusade, spread the message, because we're like, look, these children need mentors. So yes, it's salvageable. The example that you used, you know, like the issue we saw in Sokoto where we saw the young men, they've been indoctrinated. So it's a gradual thing, okay? So even when we have young boys who may be doing ills, gradually we can pull them out. Imagine someone who they look up to, who, okay, we say AU is all posh, and one day AU comes and he's having a speech and he said, do you know what? You know, I did this thing, and they'll be shocked. You did this thing and you pulled out of it. For example, many teens or the teens or below teens have a fight with, have this personal problem or addiction with pornography. Then I come and I tell you, don't do porn, don't do porn. I say, oh, that's a woman talking. A man comes, don't do porn, don't do porn. He said, that one is talking as a born-again Christian. And along the line, you pause and you say, I once had an issue. I was addicted to pornography. Now, the children or the people you're talking to now know that you can connect with them. Hence, I said, we should not only focus on them, we should send the message out so that we would have mentors that would hold the boys hand in hand and walk through the path of being gentlemen, of walk through the path of being disciplined people, walk through the path of being better, wholesome, all-round men.
Awesome. Guys, our time is fast spent, but I'm going to give an opportunity for us to have, I'm almost tempted to put you, both of you on the hot seat, which is something I delight in doing. We have not exhausted this conversation. That goes without saying. We can't even at this moment, because it's an ongoing thing. There's a backlog of things and deficits that were not done. There's the projection for the future that we're trying to achieve. And so it's an ongoing conversation. I'm tempted to, on air right now, ask that we have a repeat session or a continuous session next Sunday. Check your calendars, see if you can. And if it's a yes, I'll be more than glad. But at this point in time, I'm going to have, starting from Benjamin and then dovetailing to Eileen, your closing remarks so that we can call it a night. It's 35 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock, 35 minutes past the time that we budgeted. And yet it feels like we've only done 10 minutes. It feels like we've only done 10 minutes. So Benjamin, your closing remarks for tonight.
Wow. It's tough to be alive, but it's an opportunity to be alive.
Hold on a second before you give me that amazing delivery. That and how did you learn to deliver so smoothly, man? Okay, okay. So I need to know that you'll be back here. I'm putting you on the hotspots. So
Okay.
for me, like
You
next.
said
I want to continue this conversation next Sunday. Is there a yes from you?
I didn't get that.
I want to continue this conversation next Sunday. Is that a yes from you?
I will look into my calendar. I hope I'm not traveling, but if I'm around, yes, why not?
All right, that's good enough for me. So go ahead with your closing remarks.
So I'm going to put that in my schedule, and let's see. Yeah. So I'm in between work right now. You know, I'm in between work, but I have to take out time because this
I
has to
know.
do with humans. It has to do with boys. It has to do with human capital development, the nation, and you know, it's my little bit into the universe to transform ourselves. Yes, so we always leave out an hour or two. So it's a yes.
All right, your closing remarks.
Amazing. How did I learn to deliver this smoothly? It's all God's glory. And when I was in NYC with you, serving the country, you always said something. Empowered to succeed and equipped for greatness. Right. So it's talk. Right. It's talk. So if I can step out or before I make a presentation, relying on God's grace and utterance, I remind myself not to forget. It's something I play with. I remind myself not to forget who I am. And who I am is empowered to succeed, and I'm equipped for greatness. And I needed to say that because regardless of what life chose to choose, don't make lemonade. No. Regardless of what life chose to choose, remember that you are heaven's greatness and you are nature's best. God did not create any waste product. Leaders don't quit. Followers might stop, but leaders transform. That is why there's something called product extension. So there is a product life cycle. See your life as a brand. You are introduced, you're productive, you're mature, and then there's a decline, but then you can always extend yourself. There's an extension to you. So if you are heaven's greatness and you're nature's best, no matter what life throws at you, understand that there is somebody who needs to experience the greatness that you are, and there's somebody who needs to see how better they can become. My greatest competition is myself, not my parents. The Yoruba adage will say, I'm giving birth to you, so do well to rebirth yourself. You know, I was talking to a colleague earlier today, a friend, and I said, everybody will be fine if you're not fine, and everybody will be fine if you're fine. So as much as I do not want to sound really selfish, the truth is you need to be fine. And if you need to be fine, you understand that self-development is really important because there is somebody out there who looks up to you, who wants to be like you, and who had learned how to deliver smoothly because somebody some years back in 2017 was just beating us with delivery smoothly. Waiting happen.
Well done, well done, well done.
Thank you so much.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm deeply honored. All right, Eileen.
All right, the passing words. Okay, I would say a broken boy is a broken man. A hurt child is a hurt man. So let's learn to protect the boys, talk to the boys, encourage the boys, so that we will not have broken men years to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eileen. Thank you so much, Eileen. Broken boys make broken men, and broken men will only deliver a broken world to you. All right, and that's just so apt. That's just so apt. So I want to say a massive thank you to my two guests today, Benjamin Sarumi and Eileen Adebayo. Thank you so much for I know this is subject matter that is extremely close to your heart and mine as well. Thank you so much to learn from here. I'm sure we will replay this video over and over again. So much, so much, so much because conversation continues. And to everybody that joined us on all platforms that have been monitoring via my mobile device, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your likes. I see all of that. Thank you so much and so much. All right, so we'll be back again 7 p.m. West African time, GMT +1 next Sunday. And my conversation will be on building the boys, probably talking around the 3 M's of management, modeling, and mentorship. And we'll be looking at that now from us, how we're now going to impact it. It's going to be extremely as interesting as this. It's going to be as brilliant, as we've had today. We've had an amazing, brilliant conversation. My goodness. Like, did you guys just notice how Benjamin was just, okay, I'll just leave that, right? And Eileen is back. All of you, Eileen is back. So, but I don't think she's back to do your red carpet yet. So I'm not sure. But so if you want to speak to the Connect and catch me over. All right, so guys, till we meet again, let's keep connecting. Good night, everyone, and have a super amazing. Keep building the boys. All right, good night, folks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.